why did you get beat up? Try to get to the bottom of it. Try to learn more about, okay, maybe this guy is always winning or beating me up because I'm always doing that, and that works with him and him and him, but maybe that doesn't work with him. Maybe I have to change that one thing. When you start looking at that, it becomes more enjoyable. You have a task, you know, after that frustration, you're not just left with frustration, you have a direction, or why you have a choice to fix that, you know?
Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a big treat for you today. Mr. Yuri Simoes, ADCC champion, world no-gi champion, our competition record a mile long, some amazing achievements. He's currently making the jump from doing amazingly well in no-gi to MMA. So I want to talk about all that today. But first of all, how are you, Yuri?
Hey, how are you doing, Stephan? I'm good.
You're in California now, right?
Yeah, I'm in California, San Jose.
Okay. And why don't you just tell people a little bit about your background? They may not be familiar with it. And then I want to get really into the details of training for the gi, training for no-gi, and then making the jump to MMA. I think those three things are seen as separate by a lot of people. And I'm really interested to see how you've managed those transitions and go from one to the other.
Yeah, you mean my background as for like when I started martial arts and all of that?
Yes. I mean, you're not from you ain't from around here.
Yeah. So I started in judo in school, primary school, when I was about 4 years. I did that for 2 years, but it was just like, it wasn't nothing serious. Like every other kid had to do it. It was not like at that point I knew that I wanted to do that for my life. But maybe when I was like around 6 or 7 years, my dad was already at this point training jiu-jitsu also. So I would see him coming with a gi, you know, at night after training and stuff. And I would ask him, and he would show me some stuff. But it was probably when I was 7, I watched the documentary Choke from Rickson Gracie. And I watched that several times. And I was like, I want to be like that guy there, you know. So, you know, that really like made me motivated to want to learn jiu-jitsu. And my father was also like doing that a lot, and I wanted to, in a way, as a kid, also impress him, you know. And then after a few years doing that, it just grew on me, and I fell in love with the sports of jiu-jitsu and the philosophy of jiu-jitsu, you know. Like, you know, I in the end, like, I end up leading more towards the sports side, but I started doing jiu-jitsu and more from like a martial arts perspective. I did a lot of self-defense daily basis, you know. It was just like the warm-up a lot of times would be self-defense drills and stuff like that. And
for example, what kind of drills, Yuri?
You know, like, maybe, do you know Silvio Bering?
Yep.
Yeah, him and Maurice Sunday would have a whole system of self-defense, and we would warm up with those moves, you know, like whether someone's grabbing you on the collar, the side choke here, or, you know, just basic attacks and stuff like that. And I feel like that really like builds a foundation on you, you know. You can use a lot of those things even for sports jiu-jitsu too, but I feel like it gives you a core. It gives you like a sense of like confidence on the art, you know.
Can you give me an example of one of the self-defense techniques that you've then used in sparring or in
I think the deep concepts behind it, like, for example, staying well balanced. That's a very small thing, staying base, you know. Someone push you and you're off balance, you stumble, you cross your feet. Those things are very important in sport jiu-jitsu, MMA, fight, street fight, whatever. Like, I think that's you know, not specifically the drill, you know, because that's like almost like a kata of jiu-jitsu, you know. But the muscle memory that you get from that repetition and the variety of options that you can also apply for each attack. And I feel like just like things like your balance, how to control the weight of your opponent, how to use leverage, you know, that's it's connected, you know. I feel like it's connected with sport jiu-jitsu, martial arts jiu-jitsu, all, you know, it's all kind of like, it comes down to those things, you know.
So you were training with Silvio Bering. Was that the same place your dad trained at? You're training at the same school?
Yeah. My coach was actually Mauricio Bering, but Silvio was also teaching occasionally on his academy. So, you know, he was also one of my teachers as well. So, yeah, my father was training under that academy too. he stopped on the brown belt. I give him crap even nowadays because I'm like, man, you started in like, I think 93 or 94. It's like you swam all the way out of the ocean to sink by the shore. Like, you know, you don't stop on the brown belt. You should keep going. But he's like, oh, I'm going to come back. We're just busy with work, you know?
Of course. Of course. So then did you just start doing more and more jiu-jitsu as you got older? Or at what point did you decide you wanted to do this full time?
What is that?
At what point did you decide you wanted to do it full time?
I think I was about 14.
Okay.
Yeah. And at the time it was like, you know, my mother, remember, she was like, no, you have to do university, you have to get a degree, you know, and it was something that it was not like I didn't want to do that, you know, but in that moment I felt like it was really important that if I wanted to leave out of jiu-jitsu to fully commit myself to it. And I had a vision of like competing all those things that I've competed, living outside the country. And, you know, I think like by sticking to my plan and by dedicating myself, my life to that, I was able to achieve that, you know. And I'm glad I was stubborn and I was like, no, I want to stick with jiu-jitsu. Eventually, both of my parents, you know, especially my father, they were always supportive, but even my mom too, like once she knew that's what I wanted to do, she supported me all the way. And, you know, man, at some point I might still get a degree, you know, but it's not right now.
Did they support you financially? Because a lot of people would love to train and they just don't see.
I mean, yeah, I was like 15, maybe when I was like 19, I started traveling and I was already teaching private classes and stuff. But yeah, I probably lived in my house with my parents until I was 18. So they support me a lot. Yeah, I'm very thankful for the parents that I have.
So what advice do you give to people who want to make this their life? Because realistically, not everybody is going to be able to succeed and not everybody is going to be able to get to the level of success, either as even get a black belt, but say compete and win or open a school.
Mm-hmm.
So, but unless you have the dedication and stick with it and be stubborn, you're never going to succeed. So how do you know when to drop out? How do you know when to quit?
I don't know. I guess I don't know because I never quit. I stuck to what, or maybe repeat your question so I can.
Well, it's a difficult position regardless of whether you're doing jiu-jitsu or something else. You're trying to start your own business.
Okay.
You're trying and you're trying and you're trying and it's not working, it's not working, it's not working. How do you know when to stop? Maybe if you pushed for 4 more weeks or 4 more months, you would succeed. So how do you know when it's working or not?
Man, I honestly, I don't know because that quitting was never an option for me.
Were you doing well in competitions?
I just think like the whole jiu-jitsu lifestyle, whether it's teaching, like I teach jiu-jitsu, I don't have my school, but I love teaching. And, you know, I've taught in a couple of academies and I've taught all over the world, probably taught in like 35 countries, but just like the lifestyle, competing, teaching, like sharing jiu-jitsu and learning. And, you know, I've never really thought about not doing that or stop doing that. You know, maybe like now I'm going to MMA, but it's not like I'm stopping jiu-jitsu. In fact, I'm still using jiu-jitsu, but just kind of like shifting and changing the goal of my jiu-jitsu, you know, more focus on submissions, not get hit and, you know, but I'm still like doing it just like upgrading, you know.
So I know you did judo to start with, but then you've gone back and you've trained judo again at various intervals, have you not?
Yeah, I trained judo throughout my whole life pretty much, but it's funny because I never got awarded because I started judo in school. Like at school, there was never like a promotion, belt promotion. It was like 2 times a week, you know, and the coach would go over the same moves for the 2
Osorogari, Tezugatame.
And Koshiguro. It was a Sotogari, Iponsunagi, and another takedown, which is great. There was great takedowns, but he would show the exact same way through like 2 years, you know. But when I started training jiu-jitsu with Maurição and Silvio, they're both black belt in judo too, and they believe the takedown is one of the elements of jiu-jitsu. So I was already doing a lot of takedown entries. You know, some trainings would be based on takedown and stand up for jiu-jitsu, whether taking the back, standing, defending from Kimura, choke, it would be standing. So that was already kind of like rooted on me because since I'm a white belt, I grew up doing that, you know. And then further on, when I was competing, I realized there are levels to takedown playing, you know, like, and you can feel really uncomfortable going against someone that has a high level on whether wrestling, judo, something like that. And like even just a strong guy with good athletic guy, you know, versus someone who doesn't know takedown, the athletic guy usually is going to have an edge. So that's why I felt like it was important for me to learn the techniques, get deeper into takedowns and learn, you know, other modalities like Greco-Roman, freestyle, judo, all of that. So that was around when I was 15, 16. I started doing more judo, training some of the national team players would train in this academy in Rio, and I would go there to train, and they would whoop me, but I feel like that helped me catch up quicker, you know, helped me like get to that level. And I mean, if you train with someone that is like high level on that modality every day, and you go to jiu-jitsu where you get tough guys standing, but especially like at that time I was a blue belt, I feel like you feel much more confident standing against someone who is just a jiu-jitsu guy when you train every day or 3 times a week with a high level judo guy. I feel like once I started doing that, that gave me an edge on that.
How were you at the time? You were, I'm assuming, a pretty good blue belt.
How old was I?
How did you do against the judo guys on the ground when you did newaza, the ground?
You know, there were some judo guys there because it was in Brazil. So a lot of the judo guys were also jiu-jitsu guys, you know, and even some judo guys that would just do judo, they had surprisingly good jiu-jitsu techniques, weird chokes, weird armbar setups, like not the way that we traditionally do in jiu-jitsu. And, you know, at that time I would get pretty surprised by some of the black belts there, even on the ground, which helped me, I think, like add a different, like also newaza style to my jiu-jitsu as well, you know? Because like if you just train the guys that do spider guard or 50-50 and stuff, like I feel like judo, even on the ground, is more dynamic. You go for the pin, you go for like a choke. Their grip is like are really strong. They have different chokes and stuff. So you can like also improve your jiu-jitsu with their ground technique too. Of course, our ground knowledge is far ahead than judo, in my opinion. But you know, it doesn't mean you can't learn something from them. You know.
Okay. Flavio Canto is a big Brazilian judo guy who was very good.
Place too.
Really? Cool.
You, yeah.
I mean, he was a bronze medalist in the Olympics, I think.
I think he got bronze at one medal. Yeah,
Pan Am's champ. I'm looking at it right now.
Pan Am's champ, maybe. Yeah.
Silver medalist, Pan Am's gold, Athens bronze Olympic.
He's
pretty good.
And I heard too that, you know, I don't know. Again, I just heard that, but I heard that like when he was a blue belt, he was winning a lot of. There's even some footage of him winning jiu-jitsu tournaments, and I think part of the Judo Federation told him, "Well, you got to choose. You either go to jiu-jitsu or judo." And that's when he just kind of like, I think he still trained jiu-jitsu, but he only competed in judo and stuff.
Well, I mean, you have a famous match against a very good judo player, Travis Stevens, who is an Olympic silver medalist.
He was a Flavio Canto big opponent, big rival as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
They went against each other a couple of times.
I didn't know that. That's cool. Because, I guess they're competing in the same era.
Yeah.
But you actually took Travis down.
Yes, I did. For a jiu-jitsu takedown. For a grappling, I think, tournament or for a grappling match, I did take him down. For a judo match,
you wouldn't have scored Nippon.
I wouldn't have scored, but then again, I was the only one who did something closer to score, you know?
Okay.
So
how did you prepare for that match, and what takedown did you use?
So I think that was what helped me scoring that takedown on him. It was the fact that I think he was just expecting, a tough jiu-jitsu fighter, like with some like double leg or some like crappy or sloppy throw. I actually trained with Travis standing, so I knew he knew, like I knew some takedowns, but I don't think that he knew I was going to study his standing aspect as much as I did. And for 2 weeks in a row, it was just like I knew what leg he had, which was his first hand to make the grip, which side he usually would do his takedowns for. I studied all of that because I really wanted to like prove a point that I could stand up and potentially take down a guy on his level. But most of all, I was just excited to have the opportunity to compete against someone of his level, of his caliber in judo, you know. Hence why I made a challenge for Kyle Schneider in wrestling. I just thought it would be a really cool match, you know, in Nogi, maybe a hybrid rule set, you know. I was the first one actually to suggest that, you know,
Really?
before those guys were having the hybrid rule sets. Yeah, you can go back, you know, and even Flow Wrestling reposted that and stuff. But I don't think, you know, I think he has his Olympic year coming up and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
He needs to focus on that.
Yeah, probably. But I'm just saying, like, I'm always down to go against guys that are high level on those modalities too, because I think at the end of the day, I'll grow from it. You know what I mean? And with Travis, I was successful with that takedown. So
that was a lapel drag takedown, right?
Correct. To a double leg, to like kind of like a double leg body lock takedown. But I started with that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, which isn't really a technique that you see a lot in judo. I mean, it might be one of the few. That and pulling guard might be the two jiu-jitsu takedowns. Jiu-jitsu specific takedowns. Now, I know you did a ton of gi training, but I mean, you're probably best known for your no-gi achievements. When did you start training no-gi?
My whole life, you know, I think, like I said, I came from a very traditional academy, and no-gi was part of what we were doing, you know. Even when I went to Ricardo Vieira, because I don't know if you know, my coach passed away when I was a blue belt, Mauricio.
Yes.
So, you know, I moved to Ricardo Vieira Academy then, and even there as well, we would always do no-gi. It was more sports oriented, but we would do no-gi, gi, stand-up. So it was still very complete, you know, as far as the sport, you know. So I think like my no-gi just came more like, you just, I say, outstand more when I was a brown belt, because I feel like at that point, I had a good knowledge in the gi. I feel like the gi, there's so many situations, so many things like involved, right? But when you grow up training no gi as well, I feel like that you have that core, and you can just kind of like use that mindset that you compete in IBJJF, which is much more detailed, and adapt that with the no gi grips and stuff, and pretty much you do the same thing. So I feel like that gave me an edge, you know, my background, coming from an academy that would do always both modalities. And I don't know, man, I just think like some people are better something at the end of the day, and they're more designed to do something, and others are more designed to do other things. You know?
Are you designed to do more no-gi, do you think?
Good question. I don't know. I don't know what to, like if that's the case. I would guess so, because even though, like, for example, I see people that only compete in the gi, and they dedicate their lives to try to achieve something in the gi, and it's hard, you know. Worlds, it's a really hard tournament to win. There are a lot of tough tournaments to win. These people that they spend their lives, they can, you know, barely score or medal on a San Jose Open, you know, or I don't know, Seattle Open or something like that. You know, and if you look at my gi accomplishments, I won worlds in the gi, blue, purple, brown belt. I medaled third at 2 worlds in the gi. I won 2 Pan Ams. I medaled in the Europeans. I won several opens, like state open tournaments. So it's not like I sucked in the gi, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like my accomplishments on no gi kind of like overshadowed my, you know, it's just how it happened. So maybe now I would say I'm a better no-gi player than a gi player.
Well, that which you focus on gets better too, right? I imagine that as you're getting ready for Abu Dhabi,
Yeah.
you're mostly doing no-gi. Were you doing any gi getting ready for Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, no, for Abu Dhabi, no. And yeah, to be honest, the last, 3 years, you know, I probably trained 15% in the gi.
Okay.
You know, so it would make sense that I'm more, I'm in a different level in a no-gi compared to my gi, yeah.
Okay. And so then, when did you come to North America? And what was that like?
In the U.S., I think well, I was competing on and off. Like, I would come to compete since I was 19, 18, when I was a purple belt. But I started living here when I was 23. So almost 7 years ago, or 7 years, 8 years ago, something like that. Yeah.
And you didn't open your own school. You were training, I believe, at
Caio
Caio's.
Terra, yeah.
Okay. What was that transition like? He's not descended from the Silvio Bering line, is he?
No, he's not. Well, in between that, Caio and Silvio and Maurição, which was actually my instructor, I had Ricardo Vieira. I was training at Checkmate, which he was Brasa, he became Checkmate, but I was training under him all like from blue through black belt, So I think Caio trained with Ricardo Vieira too at some point, up to his blue or purple belt, if I'm not mistaken. So, I feel like there was some
connection
in style. Yeah.
Okay. Now you're coming in there as a big, strong, athletic guy, and you're training with Caio, who's known to be doesn't, as far as I know, doesn't do any weight training or conditioning. How did you find that? I'm not saying that you're not using technique, but he's so not big and strong.
Yeah.
How did you find that transition?
One of the things is there are other guys there that are big, heavier than me actually. So, and they compete and they do pretty well, brown belt, black belt. So I still had other training partners as far as like my weight class, and there were still legit competitors. But I think the great thing about training with Caio was learning leverage, how well he used leverage, because he's not just a light guy that only competed on his weight class, a rooster. He's a rooster guy that went against heavyweights, ultra heavyweights, and he did well. He won a lot of those matches, and that just goes to show how well he used leverage, and he really understands how to play the game with regardless what body frame or what weight you're dealing with, and very strategic as well. So I think that really helped me.
Can you give me an example of the strategic? Like, what do you mean?
Well, the strategic depends with the match, right? Stuff like if I'm fighting Leandro Lo, I'm not going to use the same strategy as if I'm fighting, Roger Gracie. I'm just being hypothetical, but it changed from guy to guy, right? But I feel like he would know, okay, this guy does X, X, and X. For you to counter that, it's best for you to do G's and D's and G's. And that's like just 2 weeks, 1 week, maybe in the day of the tournament. But I feel like training and rolling with him helped me understand the timing, the leverage, and stuff like that. Because I'm way heavier than him, I don't just want to go I'm going to put my weight and try to exactly. I wanted to try and feel it. I want to try and feel what he's doing, how is he moving his hips, how can I counter or kill that game being the most technical I can, because then when I know I can do that, I also know I can just go and do that, So
it's like the big guys who get both hands deep in their own collars, bury their chin, go in a tight little ball, and stay like a turtle for 5 minutes.
Sure.
Great. How much did you learn?
Too is it's not that I just. Well, Ricardo Vieira himself, he was a light featherweight. I grew up learning from him from blue, like I said, through black belt. He had great competitors, at all kinds of weight classes. He had Alan Finfoldo, Alan do Nascimento. I don't know if you know him, lives in Sweden. A heavier guy. He had other guys, even Leo Leite. He was a world champion. He would come there to train with us sometimes. So he was a big guy. So he was a small master, a small black belt that had this team with all different weight classes, right? So I was used to that. And he used leverage himself really well. I would watch him train with heavy guys and do really well against them. So, it's not like a problem to have to being a big guy and train with a way smaller guy. But I feel like if you're open-minded, you can actually learn and be able to use that, against heavier guys that only know how to use their weight. They don't have that aspect of it.
The little guys need to have technique.
Yeah.
For sure. Big guys can have technique or less, more or less, but little guys to survive need a ton of technique.
That's true. Yeah, I agree. And I think another part of my jiu-jitsu progress was also when I moved. Before I came to Caio, I was still Checkmate, and I was training with Lucas Leite, which he's checkmate in the US, right? So I came and I trained with him and with those group of guys for like 3 to 4 years, or maybe 3 years. And it was Bochecha, Lucas, João Assis, Lapella, Sharpay, all those really good guys, they were doing really well at the time, and that helped me. I was always it was like a gladiator field. We would always spar hard. We would always go hard with each other. So I got that aspect of it too when I trained there. So it was almost like I was getting pieces throughout growing up in Jiu-Jitsu. The very core self-defense and stuff. Then I went to Ricardo, more competition-oriented. He would teach a lot of this stuff competition smart, stuff that you sometimes you go for submission, but then you fall on bottom, you give 2 points for your opponent, stuff like that I was not aware of. Then I went to training with Lucas and those guys who were just hard. There was just hard training sessions, big guys. So when I went to Caio, I feel like that was the final polish on my jiu-jitsu. It was I already had all that volume, all that package from jiu-jitsu, from my competition experience. I was already a Pan Am champion in the black belt when I went to Caio. But I feel like he polished my technique, when I went there. Training with him helped me get my strategy up, and, not to say too that when I was there, that was when I competed the biggest tournaments I did in the black belt. Went to 3 ADCCs. I went to several no-gi worlds in the black belt level. So I feel like all of that together helped me be the grappler that I am now.
Sure. Now, you haven't spoken disrespectfully about any of your teachers.
Not at all.
But a lot of people, and there's a lot of pressure on people, you can't change teams, you can't train with other people. In my own lineage, Carlson Gracie invented the term créanche for people who leave one team and go to another. So what do you say, if I train at team 1, should I be allowed to train with the guys at team 2? Or what about switching and going off to train with team 3? What do you think about that?
Every situation is specific, and I'm not nobody to tell you where you should train or where you should not train. I think that problems can happen. People at the end of the day, they're people, and you can have issues, and there are levels of issues, and there are level of things that you can put up with, and there are things that are just you cannot put up with and continue, So like I said,
seems like a lot of the problems start.
First coach passing away, and he was probably the biggest influencer, as a coach that I've ever had. And
the Bering family,
I have a lot of people to thank about for where I am today in Jiu-Jitsu, and I'd rather be someone grateful, and mention the positive that came than mention the not good part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Your coach and the Bering family in general has had a lot of tragedy. Man, it's a lot of members of that family and sort of adopted members of that family have had unfortunate endings. It's just tragic. And you got to wonder, if that hadn't happened, would the Bering line of jiu-jitsu be better known? Not too many people know about that lineage in North America, anyway.
I think too, yeah, because also I think Jiu-Jitsu also became bigger here in America. But I feel like for the OGs, for the people who have been training long enough, you've been training long enough, right? How long have you been training for, if you don't mind me?
It depends. 25 years about, but a little bit before that too.
Yeah, that's a long time. So you know that injuries. We're talking about them. We know who the Berings are, who the Machado are, who the Grace, all the fathers. There were their tradition. They are very traditional, and they're very important on the evolution of Jiu-Jitsu. They are very important for us to be where we are today. They also have their role in the history. But I think it's one of those things too. People also will, the more they get into Jiu-Jitsu and they seek, they're gonna find out, oh, that was Marcelo Bering. That guy was, a legit fighter, one of the best ever. So, it's just people sometimes they just interested about what's cool right now too, That's why I always say that I come from a traditional foundation jiu-jitsu, because I know my roots. I know the jiu-jitsu that I learned where it comes from. And I like to study jiu-jitsu as a whole, not just like the cool techniques right now, but everything. What works, and I think like the jiu-jitsu that I learned, which was like from the 90s, 80s, and stuff like that. I still carry that foundation in me.
Do you do any of the so-called new jiu-jitsu, or whether that's the leg drag or berimbolo or crab ride?
Absolutely, yeah. I think not only I love to learn what's new, I also practice it, but I'm not just about it. I'm not just, oh, that's all you got to do. You're only going to do that. And that's been happening always for a long time. I'm not going to mention names here because I don't want to. It's not, to me, to start with, is not something negative if you just do that one thing in the tournament. But there's several athletes that were extremely accomplished, maybe more accomplished than I was in jiu-jitsu, and they only use one thing to win. They only had a one game, and it's fine. It's just like that changed, right? That one game was deep half guard, and that one game became 50-50, or,
whatever.
Spider guard, whatever, reverse de la Riva. It just keeps evolving. And I think like my goal is to learn the whole thing and to improve and to have all the weapons on my arsenal. Because I'd rather be that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm laughing because I remember starting jiu-jitsu and the idea of opening your closed guard and going to open guard being revolutionary. Like this kind of trickling down, like, guess what? You don't only have to use closed guard. There are schools, like the Machados, where they'll teach you open guard. And clearly things have evolved a little bit past that. And every time somebody's like, oh, this is the end of the world, right? Closed guard to open guard, it's the end of the world. Open guard to, I don't know, spider guard, it's the end of the world. Spider guard to 50-50, it's the end of the world. And I was guilty there too. I thought like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. And guess what? It evolved and people figured out how to use it and how to counter it. And especially no-gi.
Personally, I like to call it guard. I just call it guard because I feel like when you're on top, you have more. You have the ability to dictate where you want the fight to be. You have a lot more leverage. You're stronger on top. When you're on bottom, you have to not give position, but you kind of have to, in a way, accept the position that the guy's going. So if you're only, and of course you can still impose your spider guard and stuff, but there are people that are going to be better passing that guard than you are playing that guard. So that's why I never just wanted to be like, okay, I'm just defined by that. That's all I do. Because first, you become very readable. And then second, it's like if you are really good, like I said, if you're really good playing spider guard, you sweep maybe, or you finish 95, 99% of people there. That's going to be that 1%, that 5% of people there are going to pass every time you do that with them. But maybe if you just learn how to play half guard or something else, that's all it would take for you to be that person that you can never beat. That has happened so many times in jiu-jitsu competition. I don't need to mention names, but people have lost for the same guy over and over and over and over because of the game. They didn't change that pattern,
Did you ever have a problem running into the same guy over and over and over and then changing your game?
There were guys that I still want to fight and I want to beat, but I cannot say that I'm guilty for just trying to do the same thing and sticking to it. I'm always going to be that guy that not only I'm going to try my best to win, but I'm also going to be trying to I'm going to try to be creative and come up with something new to try to beat that guy,
Right.
And even if that didn't happen yet, I'm not done yet. So I'm still have a long way to go, right? Have you ever run into that situation?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. It's fun to say you attack somebody with leg locks, you attack somebody with leg locks, you attack somebody with leg locks, and then one day you're like, I'm only going to touch the leg and then 100% guard pass, and then you start smashing them, they evolve, and then they get good at defending your guard pass, and then you go back to leg locks. It's like taking candy from a baby again. So it's a little arms race, right? Like I get better at something, the other guy gets better at something, I get better at something, and we're kind of always side by side or neck and neck, but we're getting better. Both of us are getting better.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
So
and
let's
then
go ahead.
You also see that the other way happening. Like one guy, it's willing to, and it's like hungry to learn, and he wants to improve, and the other guy is content with where he stays, and that guy just stays here, and that other guy gets much better. But when you get two competitors where like, they're aware of that aspect of it, they're going to study, they're going to try to like improve, and what you said is going to happen.
But the trouble is, when you try something new, you usually suck at it in the beginning. Like if you're a skier and you try snowboarding, you're going to suck at snowboarding. You're not going to be as good at snowboarding as you are skiing, which you just made a really big adjustment yourself. You've gone from being really, really good at no-gi to going to train MMA. How is that? Did you find that you were sucking at various aspects of it?
Well, to start with, I was sucking in jiu-jitsu when I began doing jiu-jitsu. I lost my first 11 or 13 tournaments on my very first match. So I'm very aware of that, and I'm very determined to overcome those things, to adapt. And that's what made me be good at jiu-jitsu. I was relentless in the way that, I would lose, and I was like, okay, why did I lose? But until I start figuring out and coming up with answers, I was stubborn. And I feel like bringing that from the gi to no gi, that worked. I competed in combat jiu-jitsu, and I had to adapt. That worked. I had to adapt for different rule sets all over. Like 5 Grappling had one rule set. IBJJF have one rule set. ADCC have one rule set. Fight to Win have one rule set. Combat jiu-jitsu one rule set. EBI one rule. So that was, I was always that one guy that was chasing and trying to adapt. Because you can see a lot of IBJJF guys that they just stick to IBJJF, and that's nothing wrong with it. They want to just be great at that. I want to try to get my jiu-jitsu to work on as many situations as possible, and that's what's motivating me to go to MMA. I want to bring that in the ultimate form of fighting,
Okay. What made you so stubborn? I'm going to get to MMA, but I want to get to understand a little bit better of. Do you think it was just you're born that way, or was that something that your father modeled for you?
I love jiu-jitsu, and I think like the outcome of the tournaments would not change the fact that if I was going to train or not. That's very important. I was not just doing that to be the cool guy. I truly loved it, and I think that's why a lot of people end up giving up on things, is because they don't truly love that. They are there for a hype, or they want to just to be the cool guy and stuff. And I feel like ultimately that's what made me stick to it and be stubborn. I'm not going anywhere. I love what I'm doing, but I really want to succeed at it as well. So I think that combination helped me a lot.
Had you set a minimum goal for yourself before you went to MMA? I mean, you said you Choke, the documentary with Hicks and Gracie, was a huge influence. So that put the MMA bug in your brain right away when you were 7 years old.
Yeah.
Did you want to achieve
too? A lot of pride, like the Pride Championships, the one in Japan, and the time difference was crazy from Japan to Brazil. So we had to wake up. Me, my father, my friends, we would wake up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. to watch those live shows, and that was also a huge influence. I got to see legends like Minotauro, Arona, guys that were from Jiu-Jitsu. Hickson fought in Pride as well. And I got to see them representing, like Paulo Filho, all those guys. Like it was really cool to watch. Verdun, Fabricio Verdun there too. I got to be on his team, growing up on his team, and to watch him fight on Pride. So there were many triggers, and there were many things that helped me to get more, that motivated me to follow that journey, and I still look up to those guys, and that was my goal. It's just like I want to accomplish something in jiu-jitsu. I want to be a legit black belt. I want to also be a legit competitor. I want to write my name in jiu-jitsu history because I love it that much. I want to do something different, and yeah, that's
so how did you know the timing was right to go to MMA? Like, what made you decide, okay, now I'm done. I'm putting my no-gi competition on hold. I'm putting my gi competition on hold, and now I'm going to focus on MMA. What made you decide that now was the time?
I was gonna actually do MMA in 2016.
Okay.
I had went to AKA. I trained there for a year with them, learned a lot, made great friends there. But I suffered my first knee injury, my other knee, when I suffered that injury in ABI. I kept fighting the whole tournament. I left. I couldn't even take my flight. I had to drive back from LA to here. And I just didn't do the MRI. I didn't take an MRI. I was like, F it, I'm not taking MRI. At the time, I had an opportunity to do a super match with Romulo Barral and Dean Lister, like 2 months after that. So 1 month, I was pretty much like sitting. I couldn't walk. My leg was literally, seriously, I lost that picture. That picture was on Reddit. My leg was 3 times the size of the other leg. At the time, it was my left knee that was hurt. So it was so swollen. I think because I hurt my leg and I kept fighting on ABI. But I was like, I'm not even going to do an MRI because I know something messed up is going to come out. So I was like, I'm just going to focus on taking the inflammation out. Just was icing, a lot elevating. And then like maybe after 3 weeks, I was able to train 2 days. On the 3rd day, my knee would swell up again. And from 2 days, I was able to train 3 days. From 3 days, maximum like 4 days. And it was like that throughout the whole year. So I fought Dean Lister, Romulo Barral. I won those matches. I had to like take time out of training because it was just my leg would become a balloon, dude.
What was wrong with it?
Huh?
What was wrong with it?
I didn't know until at the end of 2016. So I hurt my leg in April 2016, right? That first leg, and that was already when I was training at AKA. In that meantime. So I didn't do an MRI. I went to fight World's No Gi at the end of 2016 in December. So I already had 3 super matches until then, or 3 competitions. And that was my 4th one. So I went to a doctor. My physical therapist was like, you got to go to a doctor, dude. You got to get your knee drained. I literally drained like 3 syringes of inflammation out of my knee. And the doctor was like, dude, your ACL is completely off. Like, you need to get this checked out. That was 1 day before or 2 days before World's No Gi 2016.
Oh, no.
So you can watch a fight with knee brace. I put knee brace on 2 legs. And what I think kept my knee together was the fact that I was like working out. I was doing some PT training, and that was just enough to keep my muscle there, like fired and support my knee. But I won World's No Gi, Division Absolute. I took 2 weeks off. I was like, my leg was just huge. I was like, fuck, and I had to take some time off. So I went to train AK. I was sparring with John Fitch. He did a light low kick on my leg, and it was enough for my knee to lock. But that knee that was messed up was just like, I just heard a lock. And dude, I had to drag myself to the car. I couldn't even walk. And I got my knee surgery. I had to go to Brazil at the time, get an MRI, and end up being like my ACL was torn. But because I was so long without getting it properly treated, the doctor said all the other structure of my knee was getting compromised. So it was like good timing. And that took me away from MMA training for like 5 months, 4 months. And when I came back, it was like May to June of 2017. ADCC was right around the corner. I had a Jiu-Jitsu sponsor, and I had a big goals in Jiu-Jitsu. So I was like, I have to push my MMA goals a little bit to the side. And that's when I came back to Jiu-Jitsu for ADCC, and I had all these super fights opportunities. I had to do it, you know.
How did you come back so quickly, though?
To answer your question, after all those things happened, and I had my second injury, I was like, all right, now I have to do MMA.
Okay.
So, like, you know, it's now or never. I know it's not now or never, but in my head, I have to think like that, you know.
Sure. How on earth did you come back so quick? Like, if you're laid up for 5 months, presumably not doing that much.
You mean like on this one, on the last injury, on that first one that I told you?
I guess the first one, because you went from the first one to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, so that's funny because actually when I was on the hospital bed about to get surgery, I was talking to the doctors like, look, doctor, is this tournament next year? This was December. I had my surgery on December 30th, I think, of 2016. And I told him I have this tournament September next year, and I really need to fight it. And he's like, forget about it, man. You know, like he's like, I'm sure that's not the last tournament you're gonna fight. And in my head, I'm like, geez, motherfucker, I have no idea how important it is to me. But I knew he was saying for like, he was trying to being responsible as a doctor. I understood that, but he was like, no, forget about it. You're gonna have other opportunities to fight. For this one, I would just like take care of your knee, recover, because by that time, he's like, by that time in September, that's going to be around 9 months out. That's going to be probably when you're going to be able to train hard again. So he gave me like, he was following the protocol, but then like when he left, I told my mom, fuck the doctor. I was like, I'm going to prove he's wrong, you know? But he did a great job on my knee and stuff, but I was like, no, now I have to make this happen. Now I have to make this happen. And Stephan, from the first day out of surgery until I was able to train hard, which took me 4 months, he said it would take 9. I did my physical therapy every single day, sometimes 2 times a day, every day. And by the end of May, I was able to go train again. I competed at San Jose Open. Then I had that fight with Travis Stevens. And then I started to be able to train more and more and more. And I was able to fight at ADCC and become champion. And I was like, it was worth, even though like I never had the best intentions for me, it was worth for me to have that mindset, because that's what made me win, you know?
How did you hurt how did your second knee injury happen?
That was on my other knee. That was on ADCC last year. Yeah. My opponent did a knee tap. My toe got caught on the edge. We were in the edge of the mat, so my toe got caught there. My knee went to the side, and then I fell on the concrete. Then we were against the table. So ADCC rules, they say, okay, if you initiate the takedown, the submission, whatever, the sweep inside of the mat, you can continue and try to finish that move outside of the mat, or you can escape of that move that was initiated inside, outside of the mat, and once that happens, come back to the middle. I defended the takedown. My knee was already buckled out. I defended the takedown. I was against the table. I had nowhere else to go. It was outside against the fucking flow grappling table. He jumps on my back and turns me, and then like I hear kind of like a shirt ripping on my knee. Yeah, because it was like MCL, meniscus, and ACL. So that's how I hurt my knee. And I just tried to keep fighting, but it was fucked up. So I was like, okay, something is wrong with it. And now I'm good again.
But right after that injury, you must have been like, oh no, not again. Like that must have been really hard to deal with.
I didn't know what level of injury it was, and it was not in the same knee. That didn't happen when I hurt my other knee. The last one was a little bit more brutal because of the way it happened. Mm-hmm. But man, I've had several injuries, like as an athlete, and I think any high-level athlete will relate. Yeah. It's just part of the game, and I just like, for some people, like that's why like a lot of people they might have a lot of talent on when they're a blue belt, and their coach is like, oh, this guy's gonna be great. But he ends up not even getting there because the first obstacle, the first submission, the first injury, the first loss by submission, the first thing that he faces as an adversity, that's when they stop. And I feel like that's what separates someone that is a champion and is someone that is a pro athlete versus someone who's not. You have to know that's part of the game. You have to grind through it and come back. I've done it on other injuries. I'll do it any injury until I want to be done,
Right. All right. Now let's talk MMA. What was the biggest adjustment that you had to make going from high-level jiu-jitsu to MMA? Striking?
For sure. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's a bit. I think for some jiu-jitsu fighters, maybe the grips and stuff, because they only doing the grip. But like we said, that's not something that's unusual for me. I'm pretty comfortable with using different grips, no-gi grips, all of that stuff, self-defense. So I feel like just getting that striking sharp, it's my goal right now. And I wanted to do it. I don't want to just be a mediocre striker, like if it happens that like I follow and I pursue that career, I want to be the best I can also in striking, because I know that MMA englobes everything. So, in order for my grappling and my wrestling, my judo to be more effective in the fights, I also understand that I need to be more comfortable striking, taking strikes, using my strikes to set up my takedowns, my clinch, whatever I want to do. So it's been really good to learn and to be a white belt again, and so much to learn. And it's so like, you find some similarities, from boxing and kickboxing, and like just your stance and stuff like that with like wrestling and jiu-jitsu. You can kind of find some stuff that is like related, and that's also very interesting to me.
So are you a blue belt, purple belt, brown belt in striking yet?
Man, you can't say it for yourself. You couldn't say like, if I'm a white belt. I haven't got. There's no belts in boxing, so. Yeah. But I'm a white belt. I'm gonna say I'm a white belt.
Okay. In a typical week of training, maybe this coronavirus thing notwithstanding, how much striking are you doing compared to wrestling, compared to takedowns?
It's easy to do solo drills in striking. It's easy to do like shadow boxing with hand weights, and I've been hitting the punching bag every now and then. I'm also doing a lot of yoga and stuff that I don't really do a lot when I'm training every day, and I feel like that's good. It gives me a balance. It like kind of like makes me more athletic, because if you just like stuck on that pod and lift weight, train like that, dude, your body kind of like just molds around it. I think like doing yoga, doing my stretches, gymnastica natural, some of that stuff helps me get my body a little bit more like athletic for fighting, I think, And it's something that I don't have the time to do also as much when we're not in this quarantine, because I'm just going to a gym, I'm sparring, I'm lifting. It's different type of training,
So how many training sessions do you have in a normal week of MMA training? Like, how many times a day are you training, and how many days a week?
Pre-quarantine, you mean?
Yeah, pre-quarantine and post-quarantine.
Well, pre-quarantine, and I think like on average training, camp, I'll do like Monday through Saturday. Usually if I do something on Sunday, it's like a hike, swimming, yoga, stretch,
active recovery.
It's like active rest, right? They say. And then Monday through Saturday, I'll stick to the training program of the gym that I'm training. I'm training at CSA in Dublin, California. So I drive like an hour there. And because it's kind of far, I try to stay there for like 2 classes in a row, whether it's like boxing, Dutch style kickboxing, Muay Thai, or MMA, and then boxing and stuff, or even Jiu-Jitsu. I've been training there too, just because the drive is so long. I try to do everything there. But, I'll train maybe like Jiu-Jitsu about 4 times a week, striking every day, sometimes 2 times a day boxing, an average of 2 to 3 classes of striking a day, mostly boxing. I've been really like in love with boxing, falling in love with it. I think it's amazing. And I'm trying to learn as much as I can.
Okay. What about takedowns? How are you training wrestling takedowns?
Now I got my 5th month out of surgery, so I can finally do that stuff, but I'm on quarantine, so I've been just taking down like punching bags and dummies and stuff. Not a lot though, but now I'm looking forward to come back and to be able to train with someone and do takedowns again. that was the only thing that I was kind of holding back to preserve my knee, and I can finally be there again.
Yeah, striking is, especially if you're not doing much kicking, is fairly safe for your knee. It's probably safer than jiu-jitsu.
Just that pivoting and taking kicks, I can already take the kicks and I can pivot. I was able to pivot hard before that. But like take down the way you fall and stuff can be a little bit more unpredictable, more like you cannot anticipate some of it. So just better to be 100%, and now I'm there. So I'm excited to come back and do it.
On the ground, do you anticipate doing how much ground and pound versus passing, getting to position, and going for submission? Obviously it's going to vary by opponent, but do you see yourself going one way or the other?
Say again, sorry, Stephan.
Do you see yourself going one way or the other on that, being more ground and pound oriented versus passing and getting to a position? And
Again, it's just like what I was saying about jiu-jitsu. I don't want to be just like, oh, that's all what I'm gonna do. I think everything can happen on a fight, and I take that from my years of competing in grappling. It's you can plan all you want, and in the end, it's like you gotta be ready for something you're not prepared of. And that's one of the things I love about just fighting in general. It's you have to adapt, right? You have to adapt, and I'm definitely adding the ground and pound aspects into my grappling. I think that's amazing complement for my grappling. It's makes it easy. I already saw the effects of that when I did combat jiu-jitsu. When you start like swinging, you start opening up your opponent, just expose their limbs. They have to, they can't just be here. Like, if you go against guys that just do submission only and EBI tournaments, they just stay here, they close the elbows, and they just stay like hide the limbs and extend the leg. And when you swing and they have to start like swinging their arms again also. So that opens up for submissions, So with MMA, it's even more vicious. You have like elbows, you have like punches, hammer punches and all of that. So I'm really like enjoying that aspect of it and bringing that into my jiu-jitsu. I think it suits my jiu-jitsu beautifully. And it, like, I think like spending those last 4 or 5 months training striking and taking a step back from wrestling, I think that was also perfect. It was perfect timing. Now I'm going back to wrestling, but I did like 5-6 solid months of striking, and I think that was the biggest miss piece on my game. And it still is, but it helped me be more comfortable.
I remember Oleg Tartarov. So now we're talking old school UFC.
UFC 5.
He told me once that if you do boxing, you have to focus. This is what he said. You have to do nothing but boxing for 3 months and do it every day. And after 3 months of doing it every day and nothing else, all of a sudden you'll start feeling comfortable. And right towards the end of his MMA career, when he was competing in those really weird events with like the ring with like the sides that go up and you're kind of like fighting in a fishbowl almost, his boxing looked pretty sharp. Yeah, I think he fought Mark Kerr maybe in that. Am I making that up? I should check. I don't have a producer who can call it up.
I'm getting twisted with another judo guy from UFC, which is anyway, I forgot. It's a big guy, judo black belt. Tatarov was
Russian Sambo.
Sambo, right? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he was fighting. He was right. Yama pit fighting. I'm just looking it up now. It was like in a ring, but then the floor towards the edge of the ring went up. So it's like in a bowl of soup.
Yeah.
Like a giant bowl of soup. So you'd like walk backwards, and then it'd start going up. Yeah, and he
seen that.
Yeah, he knee-barred Mark Kerr in that.
But no, I agree. I think like just like anything, it's muscle memory. You gotta get your body used to it, especially us from grappling. We're used to pulling things. There's like more like isometric strength, and I think you have to be able to let your arms go. You have to flow more and just learn how to be comfortable. It's a different modality, and I think like that comes with time and practice. And like coincidentally, that's what I've been doing for the last 5 months every day, striking. So hopefully that'll work out.
How is your ground defense feeling, like being on the bottom defending against strikes? Because that's also a little bit different from.
I think going back to my very first school of jiu-jitsu, I feel like how lucky I was to start on a school like that, because I really feel comfortable controlling, countering, not countering the punches, but like framing, using the correct frame, being on guards and positions where I'm not vulnerable. I feel like I'm pretty aware about that. I'm not so naive on bottom in MMA. I feel like for the sparring sessions, at least that I've done, it changed a lot, but I can hang in there pretty well.
Okay. I'm imagining that in regular training and in MMA training, you have good days and bad days, just like everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you tell yourself? What's your monologue after you have a bad day of training? Anybody can feel good after a good day of training, but what do you tell yourself after a bad day of training?
Honestly, nowadays I'm thankful. I'm thankful for a hard day and a frustrating day of training. I'm thankful as much as I feel the frustration and I might get pissed, but like for a couple hours or right after training. In the back of my head, I'm grateful and I'm thankful because I know that that's exactly what I need to evolve. And that took a lot of years for you to realize how that plays a big role on your evolution or on your growth in martial arts. You have to get that struggle, like you have to get that struggle to grow. And even like if you go to other sports too, like you watch like a professional runner, he has to put his body through a crazy amount of stress for him to get to that level. He has to run so much. There's so much impact on his cartilage. You see a bodybuilder, or I don't know, like someone that we have, a bodybuilder, you have to rake his muscle. You have to like go through damage in order to achieve growth. And I think like in fighting is like that too. You can't just expect it. It's very unrealistic. It's very selfish if you just want to go to the gym and walk through and smash your opponents and you're not willing to also put yourself on that. You got to be the hammer, but you also got to be the nail. And, you got to be okay with it. You got to realize that it's not being content, because I think that's when you get in a pattern of like, okay, I'm okay with getting bit, but use that and try to like see that match that you lost, that match that didn't really go your way, you got beat up. Why did you get beat up? Try to get to the bottom of it. Try to learn more about, okay, maybe this guy is always winning or beating me up because I'm always doing that, and that works with him and him and him, but maybe that doesn't work with him. Maybe I have to change that one thing. When you start looking at that, it becomes more enjoyable. You have a task, after that frustration, you're not just left with frustration, you have a direction, or why you have a choice to fix that,
Right. It's a very empowering attitude, right? As opposed to that. It's really interesting that you say you feel grateful for bad days, but if people could make that shift, then they would feel less frustrated, for sure.
I think they would, yeah.
So you were signed with ONE FC, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And what's it been like working with them?
Man, I haven't fought yet, so I don't know so much still about them. I mean, we're in the beginning of a relationship. Would say it would sound like that, but so far they have been extremely professional. I heard nothing but great things about them from my fellow, fighters like my friends and stuff. Some have some friends that know people that fight there. I know people like when I went to Australia that went to their events and said the atmosphere is very cool. Like the crowd actually respects the fighters, and it's I feel like it's like I was telling you about Pride. It's kind of like brings back that sense of martial arts. You're a martial artist. You're not just a showman that is just trying to show off and betray the wrong idea of fighting. To me, like it's something more classier and noble fighting to me, and that's what I believe. And I'll see. I'll see with my own eyes, but I think that's the idea that I have from ONE. And man, I'm really excited to get my first fight.
Yeah. And you don't have an opponent for that fight yet, do you?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
Just before the quarantine started, the lockdown, I had the clearance letter from my doctor for my knee, and I had just my coach just emailed ONE FC about that, and that's when we were gonna look for the opponents and for the exact dates. But my doctor said I was free to fight from August on. So we'll see who it's gonna be. Yeah.
It's going to be a really interesting thing to watch, Yuri. I can't wait to see you compete in yet a third major area of martial arts. Good. All right. Well, thank you so much. if people want to follow your ongoing training, I know you're on Instagram. Why don't you share that, and any other ways that people can follow you to see what your training looks like and what your competition looks like?
Yeah, so you can go to my Instagram. I think that would be the best way. Yuri Simoes JJ. Yeah, I post some of my training there every now and then. There's some videos on YouTube, and I'm sure on the One FC, I think they have live stream on YouTube if I'm not mistaken. So you guys will be able to see how it goes in there.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. And after you fight a couple of times, let's get you back on and see what you learned fighting MMA.
Thanks, Stephan. Thanks for having me on your show, man.